Let me introduce the theme that we're looking at today, Beyond the Billboard. As I introduce that, I'm going to invite Sally to interact with it a little bit, and then we're going to really look at what it means in a grounded way, particularly in Sally's experience in East London, and then open it up to all of us. I think through the Journal of Missional Practice, we have looked at the question that Leslie Newbegin raised many, many years ago about what does it mean for us as Christians to be a missionary people in our own culture, in what's called modern Western culture. And in those conversations, a lot of us have had a growing awareness that the focus of that question of mission has tended and continues to be on making the church work. The focus on how do you get a fresher expression of church, or how you renew, or how you remake. And as important as that is, there's been a growing sense that this drive to fix and remake the church may not be the right focus. And that's where this image of Billboard came up. As I think about it, I think of driving along some highways where we live, and a lot of billboards are advertising and saying what we've got is wonderful. Like, for example, come and buy our Ford. It's got all the latest technological bells and whistles, and if you buy our Ford, you come and belong to the Ford family, and it's going to feel so good. And you drive a little further along, and somebody has a billboard saying, our Volvos are the safest cars in the world, and if you just buy a Volvo, you'll enter the Volvo experience. And that's kind of a bit like where our churches have been. We have the best this, we have the best this, we have the right music, we preach this kind of word, we're this Reformed or we're that Wesleyan. And so the billboards have been trying to say to the culture, look at us, look what we've got to offer, come and join us. And that's where so much of the energy has been given. And our sense is that that's not where God's at work anymore. And that behind the billboard or beyond the billboard, God is up to stuff out in our neighborhoods and communities. And so the call is not so much to fix or attract, but to go join with what God is doing. So that's what's behind this notion of joining God behind the billboard. But Sally, anything you want to comment about that as we begin?
I think that's it. And I think we got to the stage in our last conversation of saying it's potentially not just the institutions and the structures that are falling apart, but some of the key ideas that we used to hold as kind of fundamentals are challenged, but not by people from the outside, but from within us sometimes as Christians. So there's a lot of deconstruction going on. And the idea there is, well, what's our approach to this? Do we just want to go back and be nostalgic about perhaps our church was in the past, our own Christian faith in the past, or are we willing to go forward more hopefully and find out what God is doing beyond this particular stage that lots of people recognise, which is a kind of deconstruction of some of the things we took for granted a while ago? Yeah, so it's structures and it's ideas. And I think also a longing for things that are not a commodity. You know,
I didn't quite hear that.
Well, I think many people are seeing that there's been this commodification of faith, of belief, of church life, and it's not doing it for people. You know, they don't want faith that's a commodity, and yet churches continue to almost brand their community as a commodity.
Say a bit more about what you mean by that, by commodity.
Well, I guess as a sociologist, I'm interested in the commodification of life. You know, the idea that we can package parts of identity, perhaps, or things that we might have expected to happen through relationships, through living in a community. That these are things that we're desperately hungry for still, but we have this idea that they're things that we can kind of buy off a shelf rather than make happen within ourselves and through commitment to each other and to relationships. And I think there's a desperate hunger for real community, for real loving, committed relationships that go, you know, beyond where they've been in terms of faith communities before. So not just turning up to a service, taking part in a program, signing up a number of beliefs that you say you believe, you know, those kinds of things I think were part of the frame for some people. But within that frame, I think there's a hunger for spiritual truth and for a sense of belonging and purpose. That's the bit that we want to keep. And I guess it's about, what do we do if the frame is falling apart? Are we saying that we also give up on these ideas of being faith communities, of having shared beliefs, of working theology through together? Or can we do it, but in a different way to how it's been before?